Ulf is a bum. He's always been a bum. He's always going to be a bum. House of the Dragon, season 3, episode 8. Let's get into it. My Ulf apologists, where y'all at? Y'all still think that Ulf was justified in turning his back on the Targaryens? So I think the issue with Ulf is that two things can be true. Yes, the Targaryens were disrespectful and mean to Ulf. But on the other hand, Ulf did a pretty good job of bringing the Targaryens' anger, bringing a lot of people's anger upon himself. Let's take Ormond Hightower, for example. Ormond Hightower treated Ulf as an ally. The time for the battle comes, Ulf is nowhere to be seen. When Ormond finally finds Ulf is drunk. Ulf is passed out in a bathroom stall. And Ormond, rightfully so, gets pissed off. What is Ulf's response to Ormond being angry with him? It's not a I'm sorry or taking any type of ownership. No, that's not what Ulf does. He was flying around on Silverwing and letting the chopper sing. And that is why I cannot feel any sympathy for Ulf. Ulf is a bum. And Ulf did nothing from the entire time we've known Ulf to do better for himself or to try and be a better person. I can only hope that the reason why Ulf was not barbecued on my screen at the end of the season is because his death in season 4 is going to be satisfying. Rhaenyra has finally stepped into her villain era. And I know that this is something that I have been asking for all season long, but I don't know, it wasn't quite as satisfying as I thought that it was going to be. I think I was expecting, something that was a bit more epic and crazy, like Cersei blowing up the Sept. I was hoping for like a really big mic drop. And watching Rhaenyra give that speech in front of the Sept was so rough because she looks unhinged. And the people in the crowd can also see that she's looking unhinged and crazy as well. Even little baby Joffrey was just like, please stop this. You're embarrassing me, mom. What's hard about that scene is that if you've watched Game of Thrones, you know that what Rhaenyra is saying is true. But we also know her timing is just off. I've left Rhaenyra alone for my past few videos, but since it's the last episode, let's come on back to it. Rhaenyra doesn't like her black family members that much. Rhaenyra has repeatedly used the Valerians to further her agenda. And I love that Baela called that out, that she uses people and then she just, kind of casts them aside when she's done with it. Let's talk about the Valerians. I really hate to see the brothers beefing, the black brothers beefing. When Baela originally decided that, she was going to go with Alan, I didn't really have a problem with that. But then in the last episode, when Adam was like, hey, Alan, we got to go save our girlfriend niece. And Alan was basically just like, do you have a permission slip signed by Rhaenyra? Alan started to lose me. And it's nothing against Alan, I guess, because he's just being himself. He is like a straight-laced guy. He's a rule follower. I was just like, Alan, come on, like just break the rules this one time and go and help Baela out. That's family and your girlfriend. I just really didn't like watching Alan turn his back on his family over this white lady. She's not setting you up for success here. When they were in the Sept and Rhaenyra had Alan kill the High Septon, first of all, I was like, Rhaenyra, why can't you do it? Rhaenyra is telling Alan that he's of old Valyrian blood and, royalty and this and that. And I'm just like, oh, really? Oh, old Valyrian blood, what's my last name? Oh, wait, what's my last name, Rhaenyra? Okay, that's what I thought. Aegon and Aemond. I am so surprised that both of these dummies made it through season 3. I thought at least one of them, Aegon most likely, was going to be a goner. Aegon and Sunfire come hobbling through Harrenhal, ready to kill Aemond, but Aemond has been through Harrenhal therapy. And if it's one thing about Harrenhal therapy, it always ends up making somebody bend the knee. Last season, it was Daemon. This season, it is Aemond. Alicent poisoning Aemond really did a number on him. He is now a broken man. He is so broken that he is feeling very guilty for trying to kill Aegon. Understandably so. But then also, he's so low that he's going to team up with Aegon. I don't know, he's down bad. But at this point, I am just convinced that these two are here for comic relief, particularly Aegon, because when Aemon introduces Alice River as his betrothed, it was just such a sibling moment to me. Like, who's this? Oh, that's my fiance. What's up? As he has a sword pointed to his brother's neck. Also, Aemon, you don't have any questions or concerns around the fact that Alice Rivers is over 100 years old. We've seen in the past episode that Aemon has had doubts about Alice, okay? But then once he finds out that she's, over a century old, he's like, you're even older than my mom, just my type. And then now everything's cool, everything's sweet. You're not going to ask any more questions. Okay. If you like it, I love it. Aemond. Ormond is gone. Thank the seven. And something that I loved about Ormond's death is that before he died, he got to see all his plans crumbling around him. He learned about the betrayal from Gwaine and Darren. He also got to see the betrayal from Ulf as Ulf was burning down Tumbleton. But Ormond Hightower, you definitely made things interesting. You made the Targaryens have to, not solely rely on their dragons. And, you will not be missed. For Darren, I really hope that he is not dead. What I hope can happen is that Gwaine and Darren fake their deaths and they just run off into the sunset. Daemon. I bet you Daemon wishes that he had negotiated peace with Gwaine and Darren and Corlys. Looking around at the damage and all the death and the lives that were lost in Tumbleton was even too much for Daemon. And if it's too much for bloodthirsty Daemon, it has to be pretty bad. So I wonder if Daemon in the next season is going to be as sword happy, battle ready as he typically is, or if the Rumble and the Tumble is going to change Daemon's perspective on how he values, human life in general and just his views on war and fighting that, or he's just going to go like buck wild crazy and be even more bloodthirsty than he currently is. That's so Helena, I really wanted more for you. They showed her death in the final scene, or at least the view from the window where she jumped. It automatically made me think of Game of Thrones when Tommen also had a similar ending on the show. And somebody in the comments let me know, was that the exact same view that we saw in Game of Thrones for Tommen that we saw for Helena as well? It kind of looked like it to me. I think that the confirmation that Alicent got around Helena's death was also like kind of eerie, the butterflies or the bugs flying and Alicent pausing. Alicent knows that something bad has happened to Helena. I remember thinking in the second episode that Rhaenyra killing Otto Hightower would be the thing to make Alicent kind of seek revenge on Rhaenyra. But then I also forgot that Otto Hightower is a terrible father. And he's also, the reason why this show, I call it House of the Deadbeat. But with Helena passing and her passing while she was under the care of Rhaenyra, that might be the thing to send Alicent over the edge. I'm not really sure what that looks like because now Alicent doesn't really have any allies. But I hope she doesn't return back to the castle, because now that we have unhinged Ray, I don't even think that she would try and keep Alicent alive at this point. I do think that this is the best season that we've had of House of the Dragon, hands down. Sometimes in this season, the episodes would drag a little bit, but overall it was more action-packed and more fast-paced. So I would say that I am definitely satisfied with season 3. But let me know in the comments what you think about episode 8 and season 3 overall.